Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing. Feeling much better today, so it's passed quickly. So today we are going to be continuing to read The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and I accidentally clicked too many times there. But anyway, let's get going. "He's as straight as I am," cried Dickon. "He's as straight as any lad i' Yorkshire." What Ben Weatherstaff did, Mary thought queer beyond measure. He choked and gulped, and suddenly tears ran down his weather-wrinkled cheeks as he struck his old hands together. "Eh," burst forth, "the lies folk tells. Thou'rt as thin as a lathe, and as white as a wraith, but there's not a knob on thee. Thou'lt make a mon yet. God bless thee." Dickon held Colin's arm strongly, but the boy had not begun to falter. He stood straighter and straighter and looked Ben Weatherstaff in the face. "I am your master," he said, "when my father is away, and you are to obey me. This is my garden. Don't dare to say a word about it. You get down from that ladder and go out to the long walk, and Miss Mary will meet you and bring you here. I want to talk to you. We did not want you, but now you will have to be in the secret. Be quick." Ben Weatherstaff's crabbed old face was still wet with that one queer rush of tears. It seemed as if he could not take his eyes from thin, straight Colin standing on his feet with his head thrown back. "Eh, lad," he almost whispered. "Eh, my lad." And then, remembering himself, he suddenly touched his hat gardener fashion and said, "Yes, sir," and obediently disappeared as he descended the ladder. Chapter 22. When the sun went down. When his head was out of sight, Colin turned to Mary. "Go and meet him," he said, and Mary flew across the grass to the door under the ivy. Dickon was watching him with sharp eyes. There were scarlet spots on his cheeks, and he looked amazing, but he showed no signs of falling. "I can stand," he said, and his head was still held up, and he said it quite grandly. I told thee thou could as soon as thou stopped being afraid," answered Dickon, "and thou stopped." "Yes, I've stopped," said Colin. Then suddenly he remembered something Mary had said. "Are you making magic?" he asked sharply. Dickon's curly mouth spread in a cheerful grin. Thou's doing magic thysel," he said. It's same magic as made these here work out of the earth." And he touched with his thick boot a clump of crocuses in the grass. Colin looked down at them. "Aye," he said slowly, "there couldna be bigger magic than that there. There couldna be." He drew himself up straighter than ever. "I'm going to walk to that tree," he said, pointing to one a few feet away from him. "I'm going to be standing when Weatherstaff comes here. I can rest against the tree if I like. When I want to sit down, I will sit down, but not before. Bring a rug from the chair." He walked to the tree, and though Dickon held his arm, he was wonderfully steady. When he stood against the tree trunk, it was not too plain that he supported himself against it. And he still held himself so straight that he looked tall. When Ben Weatherstaff came through the door in the wall, he saw him standing there, and he heard Mary muttering something under her breath. "What art saying?" he asked rather testily, because he did not want his attention distracted from the long, thin, straight boy figure and proud face. But she did not tell him. What she was saying was this: "You can do it, you can do it, I told you could, you can do it, you can do it, you can." She was saying it to Colin because she wanted to make magic and keep him on his feet looking like that. She could not bear that he should give in before Ben Weatherstaff. He did not give in. She was uplifted by a sudden feeling that he looked quite beautiful in spite of his thinness. He fixed his eyes on Ben Weatherstaff in his funny, imperious way. "Look at me," he commanded. "Look at me all over. Am I a hunchback? Have I got crooked legs?" Ben Weatherstaff had not quite got over his emotion, but he had recovered a little, and answered almost in his usual way. "Not that. he said. Note of the sort. What's thou been doing with hersel, hiding out of sight and letting folk think there was cripple and half-witted? Half-witted, said Colin angrily. Who thought that? Lots of fools, said Ben. The world's full of jackasses braying, and they never bray note but lies. What did they shut the cell up for? Everyone thought I was going to die, said Colin shortly. I'm not. And he said it with such decision, Ben Weatherstaff looked him over, up and down and up. Thou die, he said with dry exultation. Note it sort. There's got too much pluck in thee. When I seed thee put the legs on ground in such a hurry, I knowed thou was all right. Sit thee down on rug a bit, young mester, and give me thy orders. There was a queer mixture of crabbed tenderness and shrewd understanding in his manner. Mary had poured out speech as rapidly as she could as they had come down the long walk. The chief thing to be remembered, she had told him, was that Colin was getting well. Getting well. The garden was doing it. No one must let him remember about having humps and dying. The Rajah condescended to seat himself on a rug under the tree. What work do you do in the gardens, Weatherstaff? He inquired. Anything I'm told to do, answered old Ben. I'm kept on by favour, because she liked me. She? Said Colin. The mother, answered Ben Weatherstaff. My mother, said Colin, and he looked about him quietly. This was her garden, wasn't it? Aye, it was that, said Ben, and Ben Weatherstaff looked about him too. She were main fond of it. It is my garden now. I am fond of it. I shall come here every day, announced Colin. But it is to be a secret. My orders are that no one is to know that we come here. Dickon and my cousin have worked and made it come alive. I shall send for you sometimes to help, but you must come when no one can see you. Ben Weatherstaff's face twisted itself in a dry old smile. I've come here before when no one saw me, he said. What? Exclaimed Colin. When? The last time I was here, rubbing his chin and looking round, was about 2 years ago. But no one has been in it for 10 years, cried Colin. There was no door. I'm no one, said old Ben dryly, and I didn't come through door. I come over at wall. The rheumatics held me back the last 2 years. That come and did a bit of pruning, cried Dickon. I couldn't make out how it had been done. She was so fond of it, she was, said Ben Weatherstaff slowly. And she was such a pretty young thing. She says to me once, Ben, she says laughing, if ever I'm ill or if I go away, you must take care of my roses. When she did go away, the orders was no one was ever to come nigh. But I come, with grumpy obstinacy. Over at wall I come, until rheumatics stopped me. And I did a bit of work once a year. She'd gave her order first. It wouldn't have been as wick as it is if they hadn't done it, said Dickon. I did wonder. I'm glad you did it, Weatherstaff, said Colin. You'll know how to keep the secret. Aye, I'll know, sir, answered Ben, and it'll be easier for a man with rheumatics to come in at door. On the grass near the tree, Mary had dropped her trowel. Colin stretched out his hand and took it up. An odd expression came into his face, and he began to scratch at the earth. His thin hand was weak enough, but presently as they watched him, Mary with quite breathless interest, he drove the end of the trowel into the soil and turned some over. You can do it, said Mary to herself. I tell you, you can. Dickon's round eyes were full of eager curiousness, but he said not a word. Ben Weatherstaff looked on with interested face. Colin persevered. After he had turned a few trowelfuls of soil, he spoke exultantly to Dickon in his best Yorkshire. They said as they'd have me walking about here as same as other folk, and they said they'd have me digging. I thought that I was just leeing to please me. This is only first day, and I've walked, and here I am digging. Ben Weatherstaff's mouth fell open again when he heard him, but he ended by chuckling. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. So, I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night, no matter what time of day it is. I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.